All right, guys. Hopefully we're back on the air here. We just gave us our first try a minute ago, ran into a black screen of death, so we are trying for a second time. If we get some comments that the audio is working, that will be extremely helpful. So Andy's telling us about his background. You have a brother, right?
I do, yeah, a twin brother. And we were both racing pro for several years.
Yeah, so you grew up in the Berkeley area?
Yeah, we grew up in Berkeley, California. There's a lot of hills and a lot of trails close by to there. So not great mountain biking, but pretty fun to go learn on. And when you're young, you're like, 8, 9, 10, 11. You don't have a car, your bike is your freedom. And so our mom gave us like a square block of the city. We had to go stay within these streets. And then that block got bigger and bigger and bigger until it was just go biking. Nice. And we go up in the hills, we crash our brains out, we come back all scarred up. But
you guys were super competitive and you were racing each other the whole time.
Yeah, we would try to like beat each other down the hills, pack it in at 40 miles an hour, just like, ow.
And you and your brother have both been professional level racers for pretty much your entire lives as a result of this,
yeah,
right?
That's true. I went pro at like 21 or 20 or something like that.
For mountain or road?
For mountain bikes initially.
Okay.
And then I kind of transitioned from mountain bikes because I wasn't making any money at it.
Right.
Actually took like several years to pay off all my mountain biking bills. Just being pro. Woo. But then I did a lot of cyclocross.
Okay.
I went to the World Championships 3 times for that. And
cool.
Had a good amount of success. And so that was my wintertime sport. And in the summertime, I transitioned from mountain bikes to road bikes.
Okay.
So that I actually make some money. My first road race I ever did, I guest rode on my brother's team. And it was the Saturn Cycling Classic, which is Boulder to Breckenridge. 140 miles. You climb out of Boulder to 10,000 feet. You never go back below 10,000 feet for the rest of the time.
Oh.
And I was the only guy that finished out of the whole team. Because everybody else they hadn't acclimated very well.
Okay.
They were all just shattered. I had been in Moab and Durango for like a couple weeks.
Mountain biking?
So I was acclimated. The weekend before, I did an Urban National in Durango.
Yeah.
Was going so hard that I blacked out on the bike and fell over.
What year is this?
2002.
Okay, so that's like in town Durango.
Yeah, we were racing on Fort Lewis.
Cool.
And like the course marshal runs over and is like, "Are you okay?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm fine, except I can't see anything." And I was like, "I'm done with my race. Never mind." And
but so that got you ready for the race, the Breckenridge Boulder.
So then that
road
was
race.
that was like kind of a typical mountain bike race for me, just going absolutely as hard as I could and getting nothing for it. And then the next weekend I did the road race and I was the only guy that finished, and I finished in the money. I was like 19th or something.
Yeah.
$600. I was like, I'm making money doing this. I'm doing road racing from now on.
Nice.
I found out that I was like a lot better at that. So
really?
Yeah.
So your finishes were better on the road than on the mountain?
My ability to make money was better on the road.
Okay.
So I did better at that for sure.
Cool. So, okay. And then the other thing we need to mention on this new live broadcast is that you are from Berkeley, but you started going to school in Santa Cruz.
Yep, that's true.
And then you went back to Berkeley to finish your degree in engineering.
Right. Yeah. So going to school in Berkeley for high school, I kind of wanted to get out of town.
Sure.
I could have gone straight to UC Berkeley, but like I don't want college to be an extension of high school.
Yeah.
You're just like too much baggage. So got out of town and went to Santa Cruz. Santa Cruz is totally different than Berkeley.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not. It's like Berkeley's little kid sister. Super similar feel, a lot of hippies and stuff.
Yeah. That's funny. I always think of Santa Cruz as being super different than Berkeley because I'm from Santa Cruz and want to have it be my cool hometown. But
yeah,
I guess you're right. Yeah, there's a lot of Birkenstocks in both towns.
Right.
But the surf culture in Santa Cruz is so strong.
That is
I didn't
pretty
see
different.
any of that in Berkeley.
That is true.
They're different, but they're similar too. Like they're hippie central.
So I got out of town for a little bit
and
was living on UCSC campus, like pretty much at the top of the trails. But at the time, there's only 2 trails down to Highway 9, and now there's like, 17 or 18 trails.
Yeah.
So went mountain biking, rode my BMX bike on the trails to class and stuff. And that was pretty fun. I just lived up in the woods and went to school.
Were you still racing during
I was,
school?
But I was getting my butt kicked.
Okay.
I was probably drinking more beer than training. So.
And that's mountain bike racing?
Yeah, I was still mountain bike racing.
Okay.
Racing, expert class, cross country.
Okay, and then you go to UC Berkeley starting in which year?
1999.
Okay.
And I had done only a couple road races And then my road racing really started at Cal,
Okay.
doing collegiate road races. I did mountain bike races in the fall and road races in the spring. The community, in the collegiate cycling scene is so great. And
Totally.
super supportive, and I was having some success in the races, so I was motivated to keep going. I was doing a lot more training, and like success builds on success, and so I was
Yeah.
able to progress from there. That was pretty cool.
Sweet. Yeah, I also raced WCCC mountain bikes, and still people I raced with work at half the companies I'm sponsored by. And,
Right.
Yeah, and other companies got no relationship with a bunch of those folks. Yeah, it's such a small world. It's hilarious.
Yeah, it's true.
So
even some of my coworkers now, they were racing, like Colin races.
Yeah,
like,
Colin. I was going to school when Colin was at Poly too. I
Yeah.
remember. Yeah.
and he was only like a year behind me, so like he was in like the wake of me finishing mountain bike racing at UC Berkeley, and he was coming in at Cal Poly. So it's always such a small, tight world in the bike community.
Yeah,
it's
that's
pretty
what's cool about it.
Definitely.
So you graduate from Berkeley, you've gotten into the road thing, you realize you can pay off the mountain bike debt through the road
Sorta,
racing.
yeah. I was, still like working at a shop part time and training as much as I could. And
Is that shop an Ibis dealer today?
I think they shut down now.
Oh.
It was Solano Cyclery.
Okay, yeah,
You know
they
those
did.
guys.
Yeah,
But,
late 2010s.
Yeah, so they let me race. I was actually racing their colors for mountain
Cool.
bikes for a bit, and then I was racing for Sierra Nevada for a year. But the first real taste of success, especially international success, was in cyclocross, racing for the Cliff Bar Pro team, and
Cool.
It's a Berkeley-based company as well,
Yeah.
so that was a pretty tight-knit group. And the success there was crazy. All four of us on the team went to the Worlds every year that we had the team, and so it was just like we were just going out every weekend campaigning, and we were crushing it. It was super fun.
So what years was the Cliff Pro team?
2002 and 3 or 1 and 2.
Okay.
It's a while ago. So,
Yeah.
so really the gist of it is I used to race. It was a while
Hey, I
back.
did too.
It was a while back for sure.
Sweet. And then at what point does this whole era of you and your wife traveling the country in a giant trailer and just living out of the trailer, when does that begin? When does that take place?
So there's like this whole stint where I quit racing, and so the husband of one of my teammates on Cliff Bar, he worked for Specialized, and he pinged me. He's like, "Hey, there's a job opening for an engineer." And I was like, "Well, I have an engineering degree, and I'm tired of being broke." And so at that point, I was like, "Well, I could stop racing. That'd be fine." And I went to work for Specialized for 5 years.
Wow.
I was actually the road bike product manager for a while. Learned
Which
a ton about
bikes were kind of like under your wing or whatever? Some notable bike achievements that Specialized that were under you?
anything with skinny tires and drop bars.
Anything with skinny. So which models? Like was it Tarmac or
The Tarmac, the Alley, the Roubaix,
what was their cross bike? The Tricross.
the Tricross. That was my bike.
Cool.
The size 56 Tricross was a custom bike for me that I just made it a whole rest of the line and
Nice.
the rest of the bikes and all the sizes for just so I could have my own custom bike. And it was like, yep, that worked out pretty good.
So you're working full time at Specialized,
Yep.
like 2004.
2002 to 7.
Okay, and are you racing simultaneous?
Yeah, I did a lot of local races. I did a year actually pro with Webcore because
Okay.
they were sponsored by Specialized.
While you're working full time.
While I was working, yeah.
In the gauntlet at the meat grinder. at
Yeah,
Specialized.
and like took a week off to go to Philly week and got my butt kicked there.
Okay.
It was just like, wow, this is crazy. But like racing the first prototype of the Tarmac SL, the only one in existence, and I'm out racing it and pro level. So it was like,
Sweet.
I was like, confirmed, that bike's pretty good. Like,
Nice.
let's go sell it.
So then, what's next after Special? I remember seeing you racing big time road events.
Yep. So to end my career at Specialized, it took me hitting a light pole
Okay.
at 40 miles an hour at a local crit.
That'll leave a mark.
It did. I got an instant helicopter flight, a week in the hospital. I don't recommend it.
Try to aim for the non-immobile object.
Right? Yeah, all the grass behind it. I could have crashed there. But
sucks.
I was there and I was sitting in the ER and in the ICU, and the only thought in my head was, "Oh, it's so nice to get a rest."
Oh yeah.
I was like, cluing in, I'm quitting my job.
Yeah.
And then you're thinking like, well, what will I do for work then? Well, I'll just go back to my last job, which was racing bikes.
That
And
doesn't sound so rough.
So like, well,
Well, you're also super broken, so you don't want to have that happen
So
again.
like, well, just to back up a second, like take a larger view, I almost killed myself racing a bike, and that led me to race bikes full time. my mom was not happy about this decision at all.
Facepalm moment for a parent there.
It was just like, wait, you're what? So it didn't go over well.
Sure.
But my brother was still racing the whole time. Professionally, he was making a decent amount of money, and I was just well, he's my twin brother. I could probably do at least, if I can make half of what he's making, then I'll be pretty good.
Burning question. So, working as an engineering manager, product manager at Specialized, being a pro road racer, is there a pay difference? Is one making significantly more?
Yeah, it's as a mountain biker, we'd all just
you don't make anything as a mountain biker.
Share hotel rooms and stuff. So we had a term. It was broke ass pro.
Yeah,
I was a broke ass pro for a while, and even after I quit Specialized, I had to be an amateur for a year
on the road racing scene.
Yeah, and so I raced for the Cal Giant team, which was a Specialized team.
So you're making far more as a professional engineer than you were racing.
Oh, by times 5 or something.
Wow. Okay.
So pro road racers in the U.S. are scraping by. Barely.
And scraping by barely is still way better than pro mountain bikers.
Yes, for sure. I was adding up, and I was thinking that maybe when I was racing pro in the cross country racing scene, there might have been maybe 8 guys who are actually making a living at it, and everybody else was scraping by or couch surfing or maybe getting some of their bills paid.
Okay.
But the actual people who are actually net positive of I'm actually making money at this. Less than 10.
Wow.
Yep. So that's why there was a bunch of doping, because there's a lot of competition to get that money to actually make your dream work.
So once you got more established, you get your pro license, you're racing pro road. So this would have been 2009, 10, 11?
Yeah, it was 2008 was my year amateur. And I was a pro from then on, from 2010, 11, 12. Yeah. So
cool.
3 years at Bissell and 1 year at Kenda 5 Hour Energy.
And so is that the living in the fifth wheel and just traveling from venue to venue?
So what year was that? 2008. We were...
Gas was expensive that year.
It was. Yeah, that was part of the budget. And the gas prices came down, and so that's why we actually made our budget driving back. It was about 50 cents a mile.
Oof.
And we drove all the way to Gloucester, straight away. So that was a 3,000-mile road trip. So... it was, I think I was done with Bissell I think I was just starting with Bissell. So it was
Bissell's a road team.
Yeah, that was the road team.
And not just any road team, but a good one.
One of the top road teams.
Yeah.
And it was my brother's team, and it's an easy sell to the team. You're like, hey, he's your top guy. Do you want 2 of those? Okay, sign me up. Let's do that.
For you guys watching, Andy's brother Ben is his twin brother, and it's hard. I have a hard time telling them apart. So, and they are both absolute hammers on the bike. So.
Yeah, it was funny because we would, you do physical testing in the lab, and then you do a lot of racing together. And a couple of times, we did a VO2 max test, and it was we're exactly the same.
Really?
Same heart rate, same power, same.
But you guys have different inseams and stuff, right?
Yeah, we're obviously different people, but it's pretty much the same motor. Adapted to different skills. I was a lot better at crit racing than he was.
Okay.
And he was a lot better time trialist than I was.
Huh.
So another funny thing that happened was we tied to the 1,000th of a second in a time trial.
Whoa.
For 7th place.
You would have farted, it would have just bumped you across the line a little
quicker.
quicker.
Where did we make it and lose that? So we ended up exactly the same.
Wow.
We're just we're twins. That's the way it goes. We got a lot of comments in the field the next day. We're like, oh, you guys tied. We're like, we know. It's weird, huh? We must be the same dude.
Oh, my goodness.
That was pretty funny.
So 2013, you had a bad crash, right?
Yeah.
Broken scapula.
Yeah, I got hit by a car, and that kind of ended my road career.
Okay.
I was only planning on getting one more season in, and I didn't really have a contract, and as soon as you get hurt right in training time, it means you're going to miss out the first part of the season.
Yeah.
If you don't have a contract already, then you can't get one. You're like, hey, sign me up, but also I can't race for the first couple months.
Yeah.
And it's just never mind, time to actually go to work. And then I did all the races. I don't feel like I'm missing much. It's just, it would have been the same tour for one more year, which would have been cool because I would actually been doing really well that last year in 2012. And made a lot of progress and, taken some leaps forward, but c'est la vie.
Yeah.
So, and luckily I had an engineering background to follow.
Totally.
And so I can imagine, I figure, there's a lot of racers and professionals out there. They don't have that, and they get really desperate to just continue their career because
Totally.
what's their other option? Like, oh my God.
They can lead camps or whatnot, and that's like pretty meager compared to being
coach or
and if
something.
they're used to being in the spotlight, I could see that being very difficult to transition into.
Yeah, for sure it is. And so for any like prospective road racing or mountain biking pros out there, go to school first.
Yes.
And collegiate racing is killer. And then turn pro and try to make some money at it.
Or take 2 years to go to a community college, race pro those 2 years as well, and have a real job so you know how badly you want to get a real degree.
Yeah, totally.
So then I was working at Ibis I remember when you came in and interviewed. I remember your first day. I remember you were still in some pain walking in for your interview.
Yeah, I walked in with a sling on.
Yeah. And then I remember your first kid was born when you were working there too.
Yeah, that's right. I've got 2 kids now, and they keep us busy for sure.
So your job at Ibis, you're an engineer. Like this is your HD4 right behind us, complete with all kinds of measuring tools on it.
Yeah, I get to geek out about bikes as my job,
acquisition,
which is like pretty fun.
Sweet.
And as an engineering background, as technical kind of ideas about bikes anyway, like I get to go really deep in on it, and like part of my job is to understand the bike better than anybody else, so then I can make it. Like it's kind of an art. You can pick and choose, like. You can judge a painting.
Yeah.
And you can be an art expert about that. But that's a big difference from being an art critic and being a painter and knowing what to put in and how to put it all in, and how to put it together and be exactly what you want. And there's so many ways and so many different things going on. There's a lot of ways to mess up a bike. And it's your anti-squat curve is a little bit wrong, or your compression ratio on your rear suspension is not right. The front end stiffness isn't right. Your head tube angle is half a degree off. Who knows what it is? And so to get the recipe just right you have to pay a lot of attention. You have to cover and sweat all the details.
And you have to make something that can be produced at scale.
Correct.
Yeah. By not so sometimes very, very, very skilled labor. Other times people are just like fresh off the farm field, cutting these slabs of carbon, and you got to have it repeatable, very repeatable.
Yeah, and so we try to design for success for that and make things easier to make, as easy as a carbon fiber mountain bike can be.
Oh my goodness, 40 hours of labor into one frame.
Yeah, it's pretty intensive. Anybody who says like, oh, handmade bike show, these are like artisans making their stuff with their hands. Every carbon frame out in the world is made purely by people's hands and labor.
Yeah.
And it's pretty impressive, the skill and the expertise that goes into it. And all the carbon frames right now are made in China because that's where the expertise is.
Totally.
They've been making carbon frames for years and decades.
They have the technology, they have the skilled labor force, they have the less skilled but affordable labor force for other parts of the process.
Yeah. They have a lot of parts of the process dialed in of exactly which carbon resin to use and the layups and all these things, and that is literally where the worldwide expertise is for making bikes.
And not just China, but it's in the Shenzhen region specifically, right?
Yeah, it seems like Taiwan is really the epicenter of bicycle industry.
Yeah.
And so then a lot of as far as I know, all the factories that make carbon are Taiwanese owned.
Okay.
And so they took all that bike industry expertise and moved it to China for a little bit lower wages and to save some costs there. But they brought all that expertise with them. And now that China is becoming more expensive to live, and so like there's not as much of a wage gap or wage advantage there.
Yeah.
So then you're seeing factories moving to other places like
Vietnam
or Cambodia, or even farther out there.
Or to Santa Cruz.
Yeah. It's funny. Kestrel used to make carbon fiber bikes, mountain bikes, and road bikes.
Oh, yeah, in Watsonville.
In Watsonville,
like
where I live.
1988 or something.
Yeah, and I always thought that it was, the guys working there could be picking berries or making carbon bikes, and you just take your pick. If you want to get sunburned, or do you want to like have some
take your pick, no pun intended.
and so it's a little more skilled, and the people who are doing it are like very skilled.
Yeah.
And we even have like the guy who's making the 831 small Ripleys. he is a master technician.
That's Ruben?
Ruben is amazing.
Cool.
And so anybody who says that it's not skilled labor hasn't actually been involved in the process. It is amazing. And so it's
like auto body work essentially for a lot of that sanding. And then there's far more to it than that.
Well, so like, you know, we did a lot of work on getting the layup just right so that it doesn't take a lot of sanding and auto body work.
Yeah.
That it comes out of the mold pretty much perfect.
Nice.
And that took a lot of development and a lot of like to the millimeter precision, you know, like cutting down the layup just right so it just fits, so it just fills out the mold. And they've got it dialed, and Ruben is so good. And
nice.
he is making some really, really nice frames.
Heck yeah, Ruben.
Yeah.
Well, I think we got some questions from the YouTube live stream and from the Instagram live stream. I think Colby can probably bring a couple to us. Yeah, you got your mic on there, Colby?
I believe so, yeah. So
Sweet.
we have one from Revs. It's kind of more of a product, but he says he has an HD4 X01 works due to arrive this week, and he's wondering how well the Cush core works with wide rims.
Ooh, that's a good question for Andy.
Yeah. Our EWS team is using Cush core in their races now. And I mean, they are blasting through rocks and like crazy stuff way faster than any normal human being should be. And they pretty much need to be riding Cush core in order to just survive the race.
Yeah. To keep the tires surviving or the rims surviving?
The rims are actually doing pretty good.
Cool.
It's mainly the purpose is not to flat.
Yeah.
Because that kind of kills your race. And so they're kind of overdoing it to make sure that the tire holds air all the way through so they can, you know, make it through the race
it's
without
not like
losing a whole lot of
downhill
time.
where you only have 1 3-minute run. You've got 5
Right.
3 to 10 minute runs in a row.
And you have only a couple chances to fix anything that's going wrong with your bike. If you flat, and there's like this whole calculus to it, if you flat towards the upper part of a course, then you stop and you take the time to fix the flat. You lose a bunch of time, but then you make up time. You're going faster, you know, down the hill later.
And you don't destroy yourself to the point that you're out of the running.
Right. If you flat towards the bottom, like in the last minute
You're
of the
running.
course, you ride the flat and you just risk smashing your rim.
But that's where Cush core is going to help a ton.
Yeah, you get a
too.
little more cush, and so it adds a lot of weight. So your rolling mass is a bit more. It adds some damping, so like your ability to take up bumps is a little bit better.
Okay.
It's a totally different feel, and so it's best to try it, decide if it works right for you, and if it
Cool.
works right for your riding conditions.
Sweet. Colby, what other questions we have coming in? I see there's a ton right there.
So from Josh, I'm not sure what this is quite referring to, but he says same foot forward on the pedals. I think that maybe...
Okay, so when you're coasting, you either have your left foot forward. Like when you're snowboarding, you're either goofy or regular foot. On a mountain bike, same thing because your pedals are offset. So what's his question about?
That's all he said, was same foot forward on the pedals.
Well, I will adapt it. So, Andy, do we design bikes to work better with one foot forward versus the other?
Oh, it's the same.
Yeah.
I ride a snowboard goofy, so I ride with my right foot forward.
Okay.
But as a pro, you have to like be way more adaptable and flexible. There's sometimes where it's better to be the other way. I can do either.
Nice. Man, I still have a hard time like doing really technical riding with my other foot forward. I can kind of do it, but man, it's so trying to bunny hop that way.
It feels
it's ugly.
weird. Your brain is like, this is wrong. You're doing
It's
it
tough.
wrong.
Do we? You got another one?
Got another one for you.
Sweet.
So, Andy, what do you think about Latte's geometries versus 5 years ago? I might be pronouncing that wrong.
What was it? What was the name of the?
Latte's geometries.
Latte's geometries. I'm not so sure what Latte's geometries is. You mean the latest geometries?
Yeah, so
That's a good
modern,
typo.
steep
Oh,
seat angle,
yeah.
slack head angle, long front center,
We have-
tiny chain stick.
I do have a good amount of insight into this. So when we developed the HD4, my impetus was to make a bike that the EWS racers wanted.
Yeah.
They're running HD3s, but plus a size with angle
Angles.
sets, and they were kind of hodgepodge together to be what they wanted. And my goal with the HD4 is to make exactly what they wanted. So extra long front center, much slacker head angle.
More progressive suspension.
Yep, the suspension was a lot more progressive. You can even run a coil on it. So we learned a lot from that, especially with weight bias, because that puts a lot more of the weight on the rear when you extend the front out.
Yeah.
And we thought that bike was going to be like the longest thing out there. We're like, this is crazy. We're just going like so far past where we thought we should be at the time. And by the time the bike was actually launched, we were right down the middle of exactly where everybody else was. There was a poll on Pink Bike of name, like, what's your ideal reach and your head tube angle and this and that. And every single one was the HD4. We're like,
Sweet.
nailed that one on the head, right on, from like 2 years ago.
Nice.
And so, but we thought we were being like totally outlandish with it.
Yeah.
But
so
then,
you thought you were being nothing conservative, totally.
no, we thought
going
we were like
way off the
going
deep
out
end.
in left field,
Yeah.
and then that's pretty much what everybody else did.
That's hilarious.
And so then that was kind of eye opening. Like, well, so what is long and slack then? And so at the time, there's some really crazy geometries out there, like from Geometron and Mojo and Pole, and so we bought one of those and tried it, and it was eye-opening. Like, it did some things poorly. Like, it has really long chainstays, so it doesn't actually get around a corner very well.
That sounds miserable to me.
It's kind of a sled. It's definitely like not the kind of
My
bike
style
you would
is
like.
very much like always wheeling.
Yeah,
So.
it was really hard to manual, but it did some great things, which was it climbed steep climbs really well.
Cool.
It had the wheelbase of a downhill bike,
Sure.
but it climbed up some crazy stuff with excellent control. And so that kind of clued us in, like weight balance. You need more weight on the front wheel. You still need the long front center when you drop your bars, that you're not going to feel like you're going to go over the bars. You need that support on something steeply downhill.
Yeah.
But you need more weight when the seat saddle's up. And so move the seat angle forward, keep the top tube length the same. So when you're sitting on the saddle, your bars are kind of in a
Comfortably
natural
out there,
position. And the difference was night and day. You're going up something like crazy steep where your legs can barely get you up it. And instead of being like, straining to keep your weight forward, and you're just relaxed upper body. You just kind of steering.
It's a natural position
You're
for
just
the
like, this
steep
is
stuff.
weird. So we integrated that. We actually had tooled the Ritmo with geometry that was very similar to the HD4 at that time. We changed. We're like, this is so much better. And so we changed.
You went steeper on the seat angle.
Much steeper on
2
the seat
degrees,
angle.
or-
Yeah.
About that?
So about 76 seems to be like kind of our sweet spot right now. It depends on the head angle, because a steeper head angle will kick the front out more, which means you need a steeper seat angle in order to produce more balance front to rear.
I mean, slacker head angle means steeper seat tube angle.
Correct. Yeah. To provide that same weight balance.
Yeah.
Our goal was to provide the same weight bias front to rear. And so, like I put a scale on the ground and sat on my bike. It was on the HD4, it's 60 or 35 front, 65 rear.
Oh, wow.
And on the Pole, it was 38 front, and the Ranger 62 in the rear.
Yeah.
So it's only like a 3% difference, but in terms of the actual gain that you get, at my weight, it's 11 more pounds on the front wheel, or 11% more. And so it was like 11% more traction, which you feel instantly.
Yeah.
You're just like, I have more traction. I can just turn, and your wheel isn't sliding out or anything. You're locked in.
Cool.
And so it was like really eye-opening. And so that's something that we're kind of integrating into future designs, and everybody loves the Ritmo because of the breadth of its skills. You can climb with something steep, you can go down something steep, and so we feel like that's really like a nice way to go.
Sweet. So why not just go to, like, we got a question on Instagram about a 77-degree seat angle.
67, or that was the head tube.
We had a question about why not just go crazy steep on the seat tube, like 77, 79, something like that. Why not just get way out there? So why not just go nuts?
Part of the problem when you're out of your normal pedaling position, like you have to train your muscles are trained to be in that kind of slacker, like 74 or 73 seat angle. And so it's only when you're going up something very steep do you start feeling like, oh, this feels more natural. If you're riding on a flat ground, having your hips so far forward and more open hip angle and stuff, it starts to feel weird. You're using muscles that have never really been used before.
Oh, man,
your
starting
legs need to
over.
learn how to fire again. And so the transition from one to the other can be painful.
Okay.
And so to not be so extreme in that kind of helps transition people away from the 73, 74 seat angles into something a little steeper.
So eventually we might see something steeper, maybe?
If it makes sense. Like I said, if the head angle's slacker, which puts the front wheel out, then you need to put
Compensate,
more
yeah.
weight on that front wheel, and so then you have to go a little bit steeper.
So when you're figuring out the newer geometries and stuff and test riding, what's your favorite part of this whole process? Is that your favorite part, trying the other bikes and analyzing what makes them ride differently?
Yeah, like I speak.
Or are you more stoked out on designing the new bike? Like, I'm curious, what part is your more favorite?
The ideation and like trying to figure out exactly what you want to make is a really fun and fulfilling part of the job.
Okay.
I speak geochart fluently. I can look at a geochart and pick out all the numbers like that bike's going to work really well. Or I don't know, they're missing a couple things.
Sure.
And so
do you speak imperial or metric geochart?
Metric. Yeah.
Perfect.
Somebody says, I want a 44-inch top tube or wheelbase, or I don't even know.
48-inch wheelbase, I think, would be downhill-ish.
Yeah.
I haven't even looked at wheelbases in a while.
But I know like a 1,275 millimeter wheelbase is.
That's big.
That's long. And so, yeah, it's that ideation of it and trying to create in your head how you want the bike to work. That's really, really fun.
Cool.
And then the whole next step of the process is to turn it into a 2D shape, into a 3D shape, and make it look really great. And then the next step of the process is to do the carbon fiber layup and make it ride really great.
Watch the layup get put together, assist with doing it, how you want it to get put together.
I have a lot of experience with carbon fiber layup, and even back to doing the analysis in classes and stuff, like math that I couldn't even try to deal with now. But it's like super complicated.
Yeah.
And there's so many like discrete steps that you have to do in order to create a bike. And I think the funnest part for me is to go through all these things where it exists literally on a piece of paper. It's a geochart.
Yeah.
And then it exists only on the computer screen as like a 3D model. And as that kind of grows into something more polished and refined. And to jump from the screen onto something in your hands, like that first prototype that shows up.
That's got to be cool.
And you're like, it's real. Wow. That's like really, really exciting. And then you get to go build it up and you get to go ride it.
Yeah.
Something new that you thought up in your head. And then eventually you get to go ride it on a trail. And you're like, I hope this works.
Right.
And it does. And you just come back, you're like, yeah, that was fun.
I remember when the first Mojo 3 showed up and you went just immediately into the workshop at Ibis to put it together, and like hadn't even checked your email yet that morning. It was like, it's here, boom, straight in there to build it up.
That was literally like a year and a half worth of work to get to that point. And it was like, nothing else matters.
Yeah.
Let's build this up. And then I'm going to go ride for the rest of the day.
Cool.
It was really cool.
So, all right, you've been at Ibis for quite a while now. Let's see. I just lost my train of thought. Sorry, guys. How does somebody who wants to become an engineer within the bike industry, how should they go about it?
I don't know. Like,
should they become a pro mountain biker, pro road racer, work at Specialized, become a pro road racer again? And then is that the way to do it?
I do realize that I have a unique path to where I'm at now. And we get a lot of resumes of people saying, I'm so into bikes and I really love them and I want to work in the industry and this and that. And I'm just like, oh, they'd be a perfect candidate, but we don't have any space. Like, we're a small crew of people.
Ibis is what, like 20 people?
Yeah, at the most.
Yeah.
When I started working, it was 14 people.
Yeah.
And so now we're like, maybe we're 20, 22.
Yeah, not many.
With the demo guys. We're a very small company, and we have a much bigger presence in people's minds, and they think everybody's pretty surprised when they see exactly how small.
Well, there's not like
crew
a
we
whole
are.
like gamut of bikes. It's just the high end. So
Right.
a lot of high end bikes, but there's no kids bikes. There's no like hybrids.
Right.
Yeah.
So, going to school really helps. Getting a good education.
Being a mountain biker would definitely
Being a mountain
help.
biker, having that personal experience, and like in school, I was obviously had bikes on the brain, and so then every class I took, I was taking for a reason. I took a carbon fiber layup class, and they were talking. The professor used to be like a advanced R&D at Ford, so he was talking about a lot of car parts.
Oh wow!
And then I did a presentation at the end, and I showed like a Kestrel 4000 with tri-spoke wheels, and I compare that to a typical triple triangle steel frame or something like that. And you're like, this is what you can do in metal, and this is what you can do in carbon, and everyone's like, whoa! Like they didn't have that application of like this is what it means to be able to analyze things and gives you the freedom to change up shapes.
Sure.
And they're like, I need to take this class all over again. Like to have that to be able to focus on exactly what all this means and apply it to something made a huge difference in my education. And so being into bikes initially, getting that education with something to apply it to was like really good for me.
Nice.
It made a big difference.
And then to get a job at a company like Ibis, to me, it seems like working at a bike shop for a year or two would be very, very, very key. Just to have an idea of real world problems people have with their bikes and issues and questions.
I went to United Bicycle Institute when I was 15.
Okay.
I spent a couple weeks up in Ashland.
Was Nathan Riddle your teacher?
I don't even remember.
I think he's too young.
Yeah. He was probably born then or something.
Yeah.
I think
he's a year or two older than you.
That was 1992.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. It was a while back. So, yeah, it was, and I worked in bike shops ever since. So from 15 to 25 or so, I was working in bike shops. And, and so then I was working at Specialized for a while, and that was a job that fell in my lap, and I was super blessed to get it. And I was able to learn so much about the bike industry, starting at a big player like that, and that made a huge difference in my career's progression for sure. So many skills that I learned continue on to this day. I know a lot of ins and outs of the Taiwanese bike industry, and it's pretty cool.
That's kind of that's a conundrum in itself, but a good one.
Yeah.
Colby, do we have some more questions coming in? I think I see a few there.
Yes, we do. So we have one from Joseph Youngblood. With the cost of bikes being so high and Ibis even more than most, what are the benefits to and reasons why consumers should buy an Ibis bike?
Oh man, Ibis is not more than most. You look at like a Yeti, it's significantly more. Often Santa Cruz is a couple $100 more on even a frame level.
It's true. Like we price our bikes at retail to be a little more respectable of our consumers, and we realize that it's a huge purchase for somebody, and that we don't want to just have them blow their life savings on a bike.
Well, the margins aren't like, the prices are what they are because they have to be. Like, it's not like anything's overinflated by any inkling of imagination.
Our cost on the products that we sell is reasonably high, and so especially like all the bike parts that we deliver to the bike, the fork costs a lot of money, the wheels cost a lot of money, the cranks and the derailleurs, the cassettes cost a lot of money, and so there's only so much we can do to lower costs. And now, the prime spec for a bike, and we asked everybody at Ibis, if you were going to buy a bike, what would you get?
Right.
And we're like, I'm going to get an HD4 or a Mojo 3 or whatever frame suited you. I'm going to get the carbon wheels, and I'm going to get a GX group.
Yeah.
And that's like, it works great. It's totally functional. It's going to perform excellent because you get the lighter weight carbon wheels. And so you kind of pick and choose your components, keep the price a little down, and it rides excellent. And you can get into a bike that's much more affordable than like the top end $10,000 bikes.
And honestly, a 4,000, like the special blend build, $4,000.
Yeah.
I could ride one of those the rest of my life and I'd be happy. That's a pretty sweet bike. And $4,000 getting that, I'm sorry, if you're going to get a new dirt bike, you're looking at $7,500 for a YZ250F easily.
Yeah.
And that's all low end spec on the YZ250F. And a bike is almost half that, and you get so much performance out of it. So you can look at like a $10,000 Wonder build, but that's not what the majority of sales really are. That you can get a really good bike from a company like Ibis at a pretty darn affordable price. So there's this conception that Ibis are expensive or whatnot, but they're very comparable with every other competitor in the marketplace, and you don't have to blow your wad on a super high-end build out. You can have a wonderful bike if you do one of the lower price packages.
Yeah, and it's still a really great riding bike.
It's the same frame. I mean,
like on my bike right here, this is my bike, HD4. I have SLX brakes on it. And
those things look sweet.
They perform so well, and it's like, if I was ever going to buy a bike, it would be GX Group, SLX brakes, good suspension, good wheels, good tires.
Yeah.
I'd spend
and a
the
comfortable
money.
saddle.
I'd spend the money on the things that actually make the difference when you're riding. And the performance of that bike is going to be pretty much the same as the super high-end build.
Yeah, I ride XT M8000. I'm sponsored by Shimano to run XT M8000, and I'm not complaining. And stuff works better than I could ever imagine.
It's pretty bummer.
Can always try and get XTR, but diminishing returns.
I got another kind of question for you from Trail Features that kind of plays into this.
Cool.
He said, entry-level bikes are great versus what we had in the 90s, but the price gap between entry and mid can be hard on new riders. Do you see brands working to bring down the cost of mid-range bikes for new riders?
Yeah, but they're not. It's not Ibis's world though. Like I see Marin doing the $2,000. What is it? the Attack Trail or something.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's like a $2,000 complete full suspension bike. So,
Right.
but that's not Ibis's deal.
You know, like as I said, well, from my experience at Specialized, I know that any bike under about $3,500 retail is purely driven by the cost of goods that go into the bike, and margins are slim for all the different layers, and so you end up like only above $3,500 is it priced by the market. Everything else is like priced purely by it. It costs this much, and we can't afford to sell it any less. Even at a high level like Specialized, they drive the only way they can drive the prices down is by underspecking it, by giving it a lower spec derailleur, or chinsing out on some of the components.
Yeah.
And,
Well, it seems like you can get better pricing. So a company like Specialized or Giant or maybe Cannondale Trek, they buy such a big quantity of like SLX derailleurs, they can then get a really good price break or whatever. Yeah. And a company like Ibis is focused on the high end because that's its passion and goal, but it would never have the ability to get to those negotiated volume pricing to enter that market.
In the grand scheme of things, Ibis is a small company.
Yeah.
And that's almost on purpose. Like, it's a much nicer spot to be in. It's a lot more mellow, not as
it's kind of like asking Apple when they're going to be integrating Windows 11 into their computer too.
Yeah, sure.
I guess it's possible. You can set up Parallels desktop and all this stuff, but that's not their focus. So
right. Yeah. Just to compare to, like, mountain bikes are expensive, and it's kind of a luxury item, to be honest.
Yeah.
And so people say that Ibis is expensive. Well, mountain bikes are expensive. And, we deliver a bike that we think is competitive in the market. And we even try to, we don't try to gouge people when we do try to stay kind of cognizant of that's a lot of money. And we need to like keep things a little more real than some of the companies out there where they talk about how great everything is. And also it's $12,000. Oh my goodness. Yeah, nope.
Yeah,
so,
I wouldn't spend $12,000.
I can't. I mean, I work at a bike company and I make a decent amount of money making bikes, doing what I love, and I cannot afford a top-end bike, even from Ibis.
Yeah.
Especially not from another company. So it's out of my pay range for sure. With a couple kids, I'm just, nope.
Colby, do we have any final questions before we sign off?
Yeah, let's do one more from Rez, and it's what are the pros and cons of the two shocks available on the HD4?
Ooh, that's a great question.
Yeah, that is a good one.
And you could relate it to the Ripmo as well.
Yeah, that's true. So I'll start this off by saying that the X2 is Fox's premier product because it is the most adjustable out there. The DPX2 is a lighter weight option, and it's a little bit cheaper, but you don't get all the adjustments that you want. The upside to the work that we do at Ibis is the DPX2 has a stock tune that we dialed in, and we basically took an X2 and twisted all the knobs till we really liked it, and then we matched that
with the
on the DPX2.
Okay.
But it's kind of locked into that. But wow, it rides really good, and you can save a bit of coin and almost a quarter pound of weight. So it's a really popular option as long as you're kind of a set it and forget it kind of guy. And I feel like we really dial it in very well. The EWS team, when they're riding a Ripmo, the DPX2 is their shock of choice. And so Fox initially wanted to market the X2 as like the premier product, and all of our guys were like, but that shock works better. Yeah, so that's what we're going to run.
A lot.
I do too. And I've tested out other shocks from other companies, and I keep going back to a DPX2. I would finish out a testing session and then jump on a bike with a DPX. I was like, no, that's a good shock too. Wow. So right now I'm trying out the new 2019 Fox X2, and I'm liking that quite a bit.
Cool.
That's the first time I've been on a air shock in almost a year and a half.
All coils before?
I've been trying to validate a lot of coils. We get a lot of questions for, hey, can I run this coil or that coil on your bike? And the one coil that we would love to run was the Fox DHX2, but Fox has nixed it. They don't want to run their shock with a clevis.
Okay, because it increases the leverage against the bushing in the center of the shock.
Yeah,
right?
and they just don't. They want their shocks to work well and not have people have problems with them. So I've been trying out other coils and, like from Cane Creek or EXT or Olin's or RockShox. And, any of those actually work quite well. And,
cool.
I prefer the feel of a coil on my HD4 now, and I'm really digging it. And so
Sweet.
I've actually been pretty impressed with the X2, the new 2019 X2. It's on par with any of these coils. So our stock high-end offering is quite good. That is not to say anybody who doesn't want a coil, you can actually run them now on HD4.
Sweet. One with enough bushing overlap.
Yeah, correct. So anything but a Fox, pretty much.
Okay. Sweet. Well, thanks everyone for the great questions. We super appreciate it. If you have any more questions, drop them in the comments below. We might be able to get to one or two more. I think we're going to call it for today, though. We got a few minutes to go for a ride, so I think we're going to do that.
Yeah, let's do it.
Thank you, Andy.
Right on, buddy. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you guys for tuning in.
Bye.